What's happening, guys? Welcome back to Red Beard's Garage, and this is the Silver Fox 999cc that we did probably about a year ago. This is the funnest go-kart this side of it. The front end is awful. For one, when you turn, it gets into the plastic and locks up the steering wheel. So if you're like in the turns in the woods, it'll slam into a tree real quick. Today we're going to finally do double A-arm front suspension. We've teamed up with QS Components to come out with a kit for you guys to build your own A-arms. We are coming out with our own A-arm and spindle kit. And then after that launches, we're going to do a full front end kit. It's kind of like a generic out of the box front end for any buggy, as long as you want this wheel spacing. This has the perfect front end for a double A-arm. So it has the lower A-arm tabs that hang down past the frame. We're not going to utilize those. We're going to put weld-on tabs here on the frame. Then we're going to add a bar that goes from here to here at 6 inches from center to center for our upper A-arm. And we have a spindle design that I can cut out on the plasma table. We can clean that up and that'll work out great. So we got to take out the steering. I mean, look at the steering setup. This is the worst steering setup I've ever seen. It looks fine now. It looks like, oh, that works great. No, this thing is darty. It's just awful.
It's hard to turn.
Oh, yeah.
There's weight on it. You gotta throw your whole body into that steering wheel.
Yeah, it's the worst. And this engine makes so much horsepower. People's wanted us to do more to it. It can't handle anymore at this point. Like, we have to finish this before we can do more to the backside. And we are going to switch over to independent later on with a reverse gearbox. But this works really well. Like, it's strong. We haven't had a single problem with it. So we just want to address the front. And the only downside is our front's going to be wider track width than our rear. And we'll address that later. It's like, you upgrade one thing, you got to upgrade more. So we're going to disassemble the whole front end, get a game plan together. We're going to tear this thing apart and get this front end done. It's going to be exciting.
I can't wait.
All right, so this is a rack we use off a Challenger go-kart. They're pretty decent. I like the billet racks you can buy on Amazon, but they're Illuminati, so they could break easier. We can use those, have more steering, but I think we'll be all right with this one. So we take off the ball joints. We don't need those because I don't think they have enough. Yeah, I'd rather just use high joints. Okay, back to the basics. So then I take this nut off, this jam nut, and then I go in CAD and I make a plate that has the same bore that's however wide I need it for my tabs for my heim joint. So then I slide this on, I slide on that plate I make, I TIG weld it to that nut. So this is one union, you know what I'm saying? You don't know.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So basically what I'm doing to each side of this rack is I'm putting C's on it. And those C's, you'll use 2 of these heim joint spacers and a heim joint, and they will bolt to that C for the tie rod, because the tie rod will have a heim joint on each side. So that's how I adapt it. I normally cut some of these threads off, but I make it in a way that I take 2 nuts, one will be welded to the C, and then one will jam it. Once you get it to where you want it, you jam nut it in there so it don't move. So it's all removable to replace boots and whatnot. Then wherever these pivot points are is where our A-arm pivot points need to be proper and not get any binding or whatever. So that's what we have to start off with first. Then we might have to do longer than normal tabs on the buggy, you know what I mean, to compensate for the length that this is. But I got a design that I'm copying from Protolite. Protolite makes A-arms and stuff, and they came out with a real clever A-arm tab. I'll show you in a little bit that I can draw up in CAD, and I can 100% copyright them and make them for my buggy because they're real simple. They're pretty sweet how they do it. So we'll show you that later. So I'm gonna find these nuts, we'll prep this. Lonnie can start prepping the paint, like sanding off paint. We're gonna cut the steering arms off, and then we can get this mounted and go from there. So let's get into it.
Guys, I'm going to take a real quick second to talk about the sponsor of today's video, and that is Small Engine Warehouse. Small Engine Warehouse has a ton of different engine options, all the way from single to twin cylinder, small block to big block. They have brands like Honda, Kawasaki, Kohler, and Briggs & Stratton, and they're one of the biggest Briggs & Stratton dealers in the United States. One big thing that Small Engine Warehouse does is they make repower kits for your old equipment. So you can search on their website and see what type of equipment they've made repower kits for. And what this does is you can take off the old worn out engine, because these old engines are getting harder and harder to find parts for. Then you can bolt up one of their kits, which includes a new modern engine that's going to make more power than that original one. And they've retrofit everything from the wiring harnesses. Everything's going to be as easy as you could possibly imagine it to repower your old equipment. So we chose to go with this 23 horse Vanguard from Small Engine Warehouse. This is one of the most popular Briggs & Stratton engines in the V-twin world, and it also has a ton of aftermarket support if you want to do a full all-out performance build on this engine, which we will be doing very soon on the channel. We got this because we want to repower a buggy that we've had sitting outside for quite a while. This buggy has full independent suspension, so this engine coupled with the reverse gearbox is going to be awesome. And then, like I said, we're going to do a full all-out performance build, making some crazy power out of this V-twin. So make sure to stay tuned for that. So a huge shout out to Small Engine Warehouse for sponsoring today's video and sending out this engine. We can't wait to get to building the buggy for this engine on the channel. So make sure to stay tuned. Check out the links in the video description for this engine, as well as Small Engine Warehouse's website. And they also have given us a phone number that you guys can use. If you have any questions, feel free to contact them. Thank you, Small Engine Warehouse. Now let's get this chassis done so we can get the new chassis in to be installing this engine on it.
Okay, so now I'll weld these. I can make a little cap to cap these off, strengthen them even more. I may not. See, that'll give us C's on, like this heim joint will be part of the tie rod. So I've been working on this design of spindles. This isn't fully done, it needs boxed off in here, but this is pretty much done. You have, like, you know, all the turning you would want. You can run your heim joints the opposite way, but this is the easiest way for me to make them, to sell them, is like this. So you still have a lot of turning. I mean, that's a pretty good amount of steering. If you think your tires out here, you know, it'll be pretty decent. But so now I can fully weld this one in a little bit, and then we have most of the plates to make another one. And I'm getting these laser cut because right now I got to file all these tongue and grooves, and it just takes forever to do so. But we can get these, and you can see they're super sleek. And then we use these trailer 4-bolt hubs. We'll slide. I need to do a little bit more dremeling on this. We'll slide in. We'll cut the excess off the bolt. And these will weld in right there, and we'll have super strong spindle with Big Fat Daddy. Easy to replace. You can go get bearings for these at Rural King. Tractor Supply has them. That's the best thing about them. Okay, let's get to work. Woohoo! All right, now we can measure from here to here and know our width. So that is 12 in a giraffe. 12 in a giraffe. So 12 and a half is our center to center on our A-arm. So we have a little rough diagram here. 12 in a giraffe. 12 in a giraffe. 12 in a giraffe. I wish China could make me a measuring tape that has 3 grapes on 3/8, you know, in a giraffe. Okay, so 12 and now we got to measure the frame and stuff, and we can set this in there, and we just come up with how we're going to build our setup. Our ears are probably our tabs are going to be longer, which I don't like, but what we can do is make them boxed. So when we weld the tabs on, we can add a gusset just to make it strong. Don't be a wimp, Lonnie. Yep. Ah! That's safe enough-ish. Tap on the gutter right there.
The gutter's gonna fall off.
Oh, yeah, one fall over there. Oh, yippee!
Jeepers, mister.
Yeah, this 3/16 is not right. Oh my gosh, pull me outside. We're gonna put the putty in this one. Let's move it up, yeah. Okay.
That's a good sound.
My favorite sound. Yeah!
I help.
So there is our bracket. So this is how Protolite does it for their kits. Something similar. I think they do maybe just a bottom one. We did the whole front one as a unit. But now thinking about it, shouldn't have. It's fine. We can weld it in, but I may end up cutting the center out for the winch. We should have incorporated the winch like thing. That'd have been cool. You know more when you know it, you know? But that's awesome because we can throw a square back here, tack this in everywhere. Where?
Everywhere.
And then this will be perfect-nicked. Then we can do our rear one wherever we can fit it. And it's not going to be ultra wide placement A-arms just because that's the way it has to be on this. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that's awesome though. I do like that a lot. I just was forgetting about my winch placement.
Well, you could always cut that X out.
Yeah, because this is where the strength is at here. This just makes them a unit. And I can cut the center of the X out would be easy with a Angle grinder is just Santa Sikata Rankatu Yee. But yeah, so I'm thinking this other plate will bump up against this. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. To weld it in, like slide it against that. That'll give it more support too across, because we left these bars. So we also got to bring a piece of tube from here that goes across this and the next one, and if it doesn't land on this, which it doesn't look like it's going to, we'll put an upright to notch it into. Decent.
Real nice. Like, all right, now we gotta measure.
Do we want to cut a spacer?
6.5 inches.
6 in a draft, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Since we have the back one tacked in, I did some measuring, and it looks like if we did like 6 in a giraffe inches right there, will be good. So how we can make sure they're all lined up is we can get like an 8-inch, half-inch bolt run through with a piece of tube that's cut at 6.5 inches. Hold these 2 plates down, we'll cut 2 of those tubes, put 2 bolts, cattywomps. I can cut them on the bandsaw and be extremely accurate. Thank you, Italy. Thank you for doing what America couldn't. Harbor Freight, Chinese. It's like, well, that's apples to pizzas. You just set it and forget it. If you call within the next half hour, you get a free pair of oven mitts.
A $50 value. Yours free.
Try to start like snap it like that one, do it. Make sure it's tilted up to drain the. No, I mean like this. I don't know what it is. Okay.
Let's see if how accurate it is.
Well, it's all to my measurement.
Saw blade.
Thickness. This conger and belt sander. Nice. Get your finger up. Alright, let's see how good I did with my eyeball. Dang, it's pretty close. I'd say it's within like a couple valves and no, we're good on the washers. See, now we don't have to worry about getting it. I mean, would it be nice to have all 4? Sure. I don't think it's gonna be that big of a dealio. Look at that. That's real cool. We're done. What if we did all this and just did lower A-arms, single A-arms again? Like, it's even better now. Okay. What I'm thinking is my A-arms will be, the heim joint will be inside here and inside here. So my 2 new tabs will be out here and out here. So now you can see that tube's going to be a little high. It's going to set over top. Probably just go through halfway with a notcher, you know what I mean? So it'll set on this, and then we could just cap it off with a half washer or something, you know what I mean? Or you can even angle cut it, so it's a
Filled in with weld.
Yeah, we could have corrected this in CAD, but in our defense, we didn't. So it's no big deal. Okay, look at that. Made me a little holder for my tools. Cutest freaking thing I ever did saw. This ain't even the tube we're gonna use. It's the thin wall stuff.
Tell us what you did, please.
So that's how we would have to do that, is we notched it to set back here, and then we just straight cut. This is a scrap piece of tube because it's thin walled, it's 14 gauge. I'd rather use 1/8 inch on anything structural. But then what we would do is, instead of letting that go, we'd probably half it as well. I spell again. Half cut this so we could do like a little gusset or something, I don't know. But I'd rather not stick out like that.
Yeah.
But that's in there. That's real nice. All right, so we have the front end all pretty much mounted other than steering and shocks. It's the final piece. But you'll notice if you lift the A-arms, which we saw this before, it gets into the frame right there. So our plan is we notched a piece of tube that sets perfectly and lines up with that bar we put in for the brakes. So we can tack this in or weld it in. Then we can come and cut this off flush with that bar there. Flush here, get rid of that completely. And then we're eventually going to build a hood, probably very soon, maybe before we pull it out. I'm not sure, because our shock mount is going to be right in this area. And you always want to put a bar that's crossing for strength, because all the weight will be pushed into that. So we're going to get those cut out. Then for the steering rack, this bar here and the sheet metal's in the way. So we're going to put uprights down here. We're going to put uprights from that lower bar there and go up to there. So we're going to weld those in, and then we're going to cut that center chunk out in between the A-arms right there. So that'll give us plenty of clearance for the knuckle. The steering knuckle's the issue. Like, we're not having a lot of space for that with the way this front end's designed. So we're going to get those two pieces tacked in, cut those bars out, clean them up. Yep. All right, guys, so the front end is pretty much done other than the shocks and the steering rack. We're gonna knock that out in the next video and finally be able to ride this thing. We didn't add those upper supports, so we'll get all that done and take this thing out to rip. I'm so excited for this because this go-kart has always been so freaking mean. Performance 670 actually got one of these engines a while back, and they dynoed it, and it did make what they claimed. So 35 horsepower, 60 foot-pounds of torque. So to put that in perspective, a GSXR 600 makes like 120 horsepower, but it only makes like 65 foot-pounds of torque. So we're making the same amount of torque out of a stock engine as a 600cc crotch rocket. So this thing is only going to get better, and that's why we got I think a 40 millimeter Harley Davidson carb for this thing. We got some coils that'll get rid of the governor. We have some valve springs, some push rods. We have all kinds of parts to throw at this, but the front end was so janky that we did not want nothing to do with more power. So now with this new front end, and we do have electric power steering, if we see we need it, we can slap on there. But I think with the geometry everything we'll be perfectly fine, and the buggy isn't really heavy and running really big tires. So let us know what you think about this front end. I think it turned out really cool. It's a simple way to make A-arms. I've never built them like this, but I do like it for a quick, cheap, easy way to build them. Also, make sure to check out Small Engine Warehouse. You're going to be seeing a lot of them on the channel in the future. We're going to do a full build out on that 23 horse Briggs, and we're going to be installing it on a fully independent suspension buggy that we've had outside for a while. So it'll have reverse, it'll be a 2-seater. We're trying to get a lot of 2-seater builds done because we have an awesome plan to go on like an excursion on go-karts and build a camping setup. So that's coming up very soon. So massive shout out to Small Engine Warehouse for sponsoring today's video. They make some awesome retrofit kits if you're trying to revive an old mower and you don't have a lot of fabrication skills and stuff. They make kits for a lot of equipment to just bolt it right on, plug the harnesses up. It's as simple as it can be. Awesome company to work with, and they have a ton of options of engines. So make sure to check them out. Check out the links for everything on this buggy in the video description. Huge shout out also to QS Components and all the companies that makes this channel able to function with all the equipment we've got. We've been super blessed over the years, and we just can't thank them enough. And thank you guys for supporting us and watching us. We love you guys, and God bless.